There's an ancient saying, at middle age, human affairs should be halved. When you reach this season of life, it's time to let go of half of your worldly entanglements. Life is like a burden we carry on our shoulders. When we're young, we think that the more wealth, the more friends, the more relationships we have, the richer we are. But the longer we walk, the more we understand that burden is not treasure, it's weight. It presses down on our shoulders, slows our steps, bends our back. And somewhere along the way, when our hair has turned white and our knees have grown weak, we finally realize, to go further, we have to put some things down. Welcome to Beyond Thoughts. Today, in this quiet space, we're not going to talk about how to expand your network, how to communicate skillfully, or how to make more friends. All the things the modern world stuffs into our heads every day. Instead, we're going to learn a lesson that runs completely opposite, yet is filled with ancient wisdom. A lesson about less socializing, about shrinking your circle, about daring to slow down when life has entered its late afternoon, so that we understand. The most beautiful old age is not one bustling with activity, but one that is serene and light. In modern society, we're taught to connect. We're told we need lots of friends on social media, to join many groups and associations. People are terrified of loneliness, of being abandoned, of falling behind, so they throw themselves into wide social circles, thinking that's how to live fully. But the ancients taught us something completely different. Few people, few affairs, many people, many troubles. The fewer interactions you have, the fewer complications. The more you spread yourself out, the more tangled your life becomes. Especially when you've reached middle age or your later years. Reducing social contact isn't a failure or isolation, it's wisdom. It's a way of preserving yourself. Let's look at two profound philosophies from the ancients, one from Confucianism, one from Taoism, to understand why reducing social interactions leads to fewer troubles. The economics of mental energy. The Confucians, especially Confucius himself, whom we often think of as a master of etiquette and social interaction, actually understood the value of few companions very well. Confucius said, "When the mind is calm, the body is at peace." These words sound simple, but the longer we live, the more we feel their truth. The mind is the root of all health, and the mind needs stillness. When Confucius was young, he traveled through all the feudal states, meeting countless rulers, officials, students, and friends. He opened his heart to everyone, hoping to spread his ideas. In those years, he didn't fear hardship, riding his ox cart across mountains and forests, crossing rivers and streams, even facing assassination attempts in the state of Song, suffering starvation in Quam, being mocked by the world as a stray dog. Yet he never gave up. He kept trying to persuade the lords, to restore rights and music, to revive morality. He believed that if he met enough people and said enough words, someone would eventually listen and act. But in his later years, back in his home state of Lu, Confucius changed. He stopped chasing after numbers of disciples, stopped trying to convince those who wouldn't listen. He kept only a few true kindred spirits. Yen Hui, the most virtuous disciple who died young, causing Confucius to cry out in grief. Zilu, the courageous and loyal one who also met a violent end. And Zigong, the intelligent and capable one. These were the people who truly understood him. People with whom he didn't need to explain himself, didn't need to wear a mask. He chose to live in stillness, spending the rest of his life editing the spring and autumn annals and passing down precious lessons to later generations. In his final days, when his disciples asked whether he regretted not being valued by rulers, whether he felt his lifelong aspirations had failed, he simply smiled and said, "I do not worry that others do not understand me. I worry that I do not understand others." That saying, in essence, is about letting go of what doesn't belong to us, about accepting that not everyone is worth our mental energy. Why? Because Confucius understood that mental energy is a finite resource. It's not an inexhaustible well. Every meeting, every conversation, every interaction consumes a portion of our spiritual energy. And as we age, our body weakens, our vitality declines, and our ability to recover energy becomes much slower than when we were young. Think of your mental energy as the oil in an oil lamp. When you're young, the lamp is full. The flame burns bright. You can stay up late, socialize with many people, and still feel sharp. But as you grow old, the oil runs low, the flame grows weaker. If you keep burning it on pointless things, gatherings that yield nothing, gossip without end, relationships that are half true and half false, the flame will go out before you can use it for what truly matters. Caring for your health, nourishing your soul, spending time with family, or simply enjoying the peace of your final years. The Confucian tradition calls this the economics of mental energy. Just like in material economics, we have to allocate scarce resources wisely. We can't spend recklessly. We must invest in the right places, in people who deserve it, in relationships of lasting value, in things that nourish the soul, not in fleeting pleasures, empty words, or those who only come when they need something and disappear when we face hardship. The ancients also said, stillness gives birth to wisdom. Activity gives birth to chaos. When we reduce social interactions, we create space for the mind to settle. A settled mind sees more clearly, judges people and matters more accurately, and isn't swept away by the emotions of the crowd. On the other hand, when we socialize too much, we're constantly stimulated by information and others' emotions. One person's joy becomes our joy. Another's sadness becomes our sadness. Someone badmouths another, and we follow along in judgment. Our heart is no longer our own. It becomes a stage for the world to act out its dramas. In old age, what we need most is not external bustle but internal stability. Reducing interactions helps us avoid being drawn into negative stories, criticism, and petty conflicts. We don't have to force a smile to please anyone, pretend to be strong, or maintain an image in anyone's eyes. We live true to our own feelings, at our own slow rhythm, and from that, our mental health improves, sleep deepens, illness lessens. The Taoist art of Wu Wei. If Confucianism teaches us the economics of mental energy, Taoism opens another depth, the philosophy of Wu Wei. Laozi says in the Tao Te Ching, Wu Wei or Wu Bu Wei, do nothing, yet nothing is left undone. It sounds paradoxical, but that's the essence of the way. Wu Wei doesn't mean lying still and doing nothing. It means not acting against the natural order, not forcing, not chasing after pointless things. Applied to social interaction, reducing contact isn't isolating yourself from the world. It's letting go of relationships that no longer serve you, those that consume energy without nourishing the soul. The story of Laozi riding his green ox through the Hangga Pass is one of the most emblematic images of this philosophy. At that time, Laozi was old, his hair and beard white. He had served as keeper of the royal archives in the Zhou court, read all the classics of the world, and witnessed the decline of the dynasty. He saw clearly that the world was descending into chaos, people fighting for power, morality crumbling, and that it could not be saved. Many urged him to stay, to continue using his wisdom to advise, to write books and expound his teachings. But Laozi only shook his head. He knew that some things cannot be held back, that some rivers cannot be dammed. When an entire society has chosen the path of contention, when people's hearts are no longer pure, standing alone and shouting would not make anyone listen. So instead of trying to convince those who wouldn't listen, instead of joining a hopeless battle, he chose to let go. One day, as dawn broke in the east, he led an old green ox, dressed in simple brown robes and a worn leaf hat, and left the capital, heading west. He didn't hurry. He didn't look back at what he had cherished. He walked slowly, at the pace of the old ox, past fields of ripened rice, past babbling streams, past quiet villages. Passers-by saw only an ordinary old farmer. None suspected he was the great sage bidding farewell to the world. When he reached Hangga Pass, the gatekeeper, named Inchi, recognized him. Kneeling, Inchi begged, "Master, if you go, who will teach future generations? Please leave behind your teachings." Laozi paused, gazed back toward the distant capital, where wisps of incense still rose, then nodded. He sat down, wrote 5,000 characters, the Tao Te Ching, handed them to Inchi, and quietly departed. No one knows where he went or what became of him. Some say he entered deep mountains to cultivate immortality. Others say he crossed the desert to spread his teachings in the West. No one knows for sure. What is certain is that Laozi let go of all fame, status, relationships, and even the society that troubled him. He stepped into uncertainty, into absolute freedom. That is Wu Wei. He didn't cling to what was lost, didn't cling to reputation, didn't rely on power. He let go. And precisely because he let go, his thought has endured for millennia, influencing countless generations. For those of us entering the later seasons of life, Laozi's story is a deep reminder. Don't hold on to what no longer fits. Childhood friends who have taken different paths, whose mindsets and values have changed, let them go gently. Don't cling to relationships that require you to strain yourself, sacrifice your dignity, or swallow bitterness. Don't fear letting go. The gatherings you attend only because you're afraid of seeming odd, or afraid of offending someone. Stop forcing yourself. Letting go doesn't mean indifference. It means respecting the natural order, like water flowing to the sea, like leaves falling to the earth, like trees not trying to keep their leaves when winter comes. In old age, we too should follow the natural rhythm of life. Draw inward, slow down, reduce external noise to listen to the inner voice. Laozi also taught, less is more is confusion. When we reduce complex relationships, we gain something far more precious: peace, time for ourselves, space for reflection, solid mental health, a lighter life. When we cling to too many relationships, we lose peace of mind, lose energy, lose focus, and ultimately lose ourselves in the crowd. How to choose wisely? Now, someone may ask, then how do we know whom to spend less time with? How do we avoid becoming selfish or cold? That's an excellent question. The ancients didn't teach us to be heartless. They taught us to live discerningly. First, pay attention to your feelings after each encounter. If after meeting someone you feel tired, heavy, even irritated or sad, that's a sign that the relationship is draining your energy. If after meeting someone you feel lighter, refreshed, and more motivated, that person brings positive energy. In old age, spend your time with those in the second group and gradually reduce contact with the first. Second, prioritize family and those closest to you. The ancients said, when the family is harmonious, all things prosper. At the end of life, casual friends may smile and drift away, but children, grandchildren, spouse, and siblings are the ones who truly care about us. They don't need us to be brilliant or outstanding. They just want us to be healthy and happy. Spend time talking with your children and grandchildren, passing on what only a seasoned life can teach. Spend time with your spouse, who has walked so many miles with you. Third, make time for yourself. Older people often forget this. They spend their whole lives caring for children and others, but rarely care for themselves. Reducing social interactions gives you space to do what you love. Read, garden, do gentle exercises, sip tea, take a walk, reflect on life. Slow down a little, and you'll find your heart settling, and life still holds many lovely things. A day that is not rushed, a morning without hurry, an afternoon watching the gentle sunlight, an evening listening to grandchildren's laughter. These small things are a happiness rarely felt in youth. Fourth, don't fear saying no. Many older people fear refusing invitations, fear offending others, so they force themselves to attend gatherings they don't want to. But the ancients taught, if it's not your affair, do not speak. If they are not your trusted ones, do not form deep ties. A gentle but firm refusal doesn't make you a bad person. It helps you preserve your energy for what truly matters. Fifth, learn to enjoy solitude. The ancients made a clear distinction between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is being abandoned, having no one who cares. It's painful. Solitude is a conscious choice, a space for the soul to breathe. When you learn to enjoy solitude, you're no longer afraid, no longer feel empty. Instead, you feel free, light. Laozi said, stand alone without changing. That is the highest state for a practitioner of the way, and the true happiness of old age. Conclusion. Dear friends, the philosophy of reducing social interactions to reduce trouble is not a selfish or cold teaching. It's the profound wisdom of the ancients on how to live healthily, lightly, and peacefully. Confucianism teaches us the economics of mental energy. Our mental energy is finite, so we must invest it wisely in the right people and places. Taoism teaches us Wu Wei, letting go of what is pointless to receive what is truly valuable. When young, we need broad interactions to expand our world, to learn and experience. But in old age, We need to draw inward to protect our soul, to enjoy the peace we sacrificed for so long while chasing fame, profit, and the crowd. The ancients said, "The most precious things in life are peace and safety." And peace doesn't come from bustle and excitement. It comes from simplicity, lightness, and stillness. Reducing social interactions helps us avoid gossip, maintain mental health, avoid being taken advantage of, become closer to family, and most importantly, nurture inner serenity. Remember Confucius's words, "When the mind is calm, the body is at peace." Remember Lao Tzu's teaching, "Less is more is confusion."